who among us doesn't love to see a talented actor rise from the embers of their own stalled career and come back stronger than ever before? Now, they may not like you to call it a comeback, but that is precisely what it is. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, and here are 10 actors who made comebacks in insane movies. Number 10, Nicolas Cage, Mandy. Let's kick things off with one of the wildest career trajectories in modern Hollywood history. By the mid-1990s, Nicolas Cage had firmly established himself as both a bankable box office talent and firmly respected performer, even winning a Best Actor Oscar for 1995's Leaving Las Vegas. Cage continued to star in major theatrical releases of varying quality until around 2013, when, in an attempt to whittle down a massive $6.2 million tax bill, he began starring in an array of low-quality, straight-to-video action thrillers, which would pay him a princely sum for a few short weeks of work. And so began Cage's brutal critical losing streak. For though he never phoned in his work in these movies, it was painful to see someone so talented slumming it in such pedestrian drag. But in 2018, after appearing in almost 24 junky genre vehicles, Cage's fortunes began to turn, both literally and figuratively. With his tax woes abating, Cage pinged back towards quality left-field films, beginning with trippy horror film Mandy. Cage's performance was widely praised as his best in years. And in the 6 years since, he's received round acclaim in the likes of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, Color Out of Space, Willy's Wonderland, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, Dream Scenario, Arcadian, and Longlegs. It's great to have Nick Cage back, but as he himself declares in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, he never really left. Number 9, Matthew McConaughey, Killer Joe. By the 2010s, it truly seemed like Matthew McConaughey was firmly checked out of acting, starring in only the most base, undemanding, low-effort projects like Fool's Gold and Ghosts of Girlfriends Past. But starting in 2011, McConaughey made a conscious effort to ditch the lousy genre vehicles and commit his acting efforts to more quality work, as was lovingly dubbed the McConaissance by his fans. McConaughey's run of expectation-defying performances in auteur-driven fare began with Killer Joe, a savage black comedy from the legendary William Friedkin, which cast the actor against type as the titular Joe, a cop who moonlights as a hitman. To say that McConaughey plays a Hall of Famer piece of crap is quite the understatement. The performance proving such an eye-opening corruption of his popular charming persona that critics couldn't help but festoon him with awards. The years that followed can only be described as momentous, with McConaughey receiving wide acclaim for Bernie, Mud, Magic Mike, Dallas Buyers Club, for which he won a Best Actor Oscar, The Wolf of Wall Street, Interstellar, and the TV series True Detective. Though the McConaissance petered out by 2014, it was enormously successful in rehabilitating McConaughey's public image, which he continues to feel the benefit of today. Number 8, Kirsten Dunst, Melancholia. Though Kirsten Dunst pulled off the tricky feat of successfully transitioning from child actress to adult roles, it's also fair to say that her career began to downturn around 2007, following her appearance in Spider-Man 3. Dunst had few major acclaimed roles in the years that followed, in large part because she checked herself into treatment for depression in 2008, in turn putting her career on hold. But Dunst made one hell of a return in 2011 when she starred in Lars von Trier's surreal drama Melancholia, a film for which she won the Cannes Film Festival's Best Actress Award, and was widely considered a contender for the Best Actress Oscar, though ultimately she wasn't nominated. For Dunst, best known as a young Hollywood it girl at the time, to rise from the ashes with one of cinema's most stingingly authentic depictions of depression in a Lars von Trier film of all things is a move nobody saw coming. But it proved to everyone that she had the acting chops to be taken seriously, and her career has flourished massively ever since. Number 7, Hugh Grant, Cloud Atlas. Hugh Grant was undeniably one of the most bankable male leads of the 1990s. If you needed a disarmingly foppish rom-com protagonist, he fit the bill perfectly. Enough that Grant became aggressively typecast all the way through to the late 2000s. The law of diminishing returns being what it is, Grant's cachet dwindled amid an array of less than stellar genre vehicles, prompting him to take an acting hiatus between 2009 and 2012. Grant Grant then returned in a most unexpected of films, the Wachowskis' ambitious sci-fi epic Cloud Atlas, where he played 6 wildly different characters and basically acted against type in the most aggressive manner possible. Despite Cloud Atlas's box office failure, it nevertheless led critics, audiences, and Hollywood itself to appreciate that Grant had much more to offer than crusty rom-com roles, resulting in a major career resurgence in hit films like Florence Foster Jenkins, Paddington 2, The Gentleman, Wonka, and TV series A Very English Scandal. Grant himself even recently proclaimed that Cloud Atlas saved his career, deeming himself, quote, completely marooned after the 2009 rom-com Did You Hear About the Morgans flopped. But appearing in the Wachowskis' film made him remember that he, quote, almost used to enjoy acting. Furthermore, he added that his acting offers, quote, completely changed after the film, and he was reportedly only cast in his upcoming A24 horror film Heretic because filmmakers Scott Beck and Brian Woods had seen his work in Cloud Atlas. Number 6, Michael Keaton, Birdman. Michael Keaton was a reliably bankable leading man throughout the 1980s and early 90s, in the likes of Mr. Mum, Beetlejuice, Batman, and Batman Returns. But post-Batman, Keaton struggled to find his place in Hollywood. The back half of the 90s were a rough time for him, culminating in his appearance in 1998's critically panned box office flop Jack Frost. For the next decade plus, Keaton tended more towards supporting roles, most notably in Toy Story 3 and The Other Guys. But Keaton's career was reinvented overnight in 2014 when he starred in Best Picture winner Birdman. Even though Keaton failed to win the Best Actor Oscar he was nominated for, his gloriously meta performance, undeniably riffing on his own past as a superhero star, made him hot property in Hollywood once again. In the decades since, Keaton has appeared in a bevy of both meaty dramatic roles and notable blockbuster parts, and even won an Emmy in 2022 for his performance in the limited series Dope Stick. Number 5, Gloria Swanson, Sunset Boulevard. An oldie but a goodie now with Gloria Swanson, who made a name for herself as a star of Hollywood's silent era in the 1920s, even earning 2 Best Actress Oscar nominations in the period. However, Swanson struggled to transition into the sound era of the 1930s, with a number of prominent flops causing her to accept that her career as a starlet had ended. After 1941's Father Takes a Wife, Swanson was absent from feature films for almost an entire decade, until she appeared in Billy Wilder's Sunset Boulevard, a seminal noir offering about a former silent-era star attempting to stage a comeback. The similarities between player and part were not lost on anyone, least of all Swanson, who, while not actively seeking a Hollywood comeback, was persuaded to star in the noir by Wilder. Sunset Boulevard was ultimately a major success, hailed today as one of the greatest films of all time. Swanson herself received a Best Actress Oscar nomination for her fearlessly full-throated performance as the deranged Norma Desmond. Ironically, despite the film causing Swanson to receive major offers left and right, she turned most of them down due to them being so similar to Norma. Swanson appeared in just a handful of movies in the decades that followed, preferring instead to focus on stage acting, though Swanson chose not to fully capitalize on her renewed success. That made it no less jolting a comeback for a performer who had effectively accepted defeat. Number 4, Neil Patrick Harris, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. Neil Patrick Harris rose to fame in the late 1980s and early 90s as the star of hit sitcom Doogie Howser, MD. Though in the decade that followed, he struggled to translate that success onto the big screen, beyond a memorable appearance in Starship Troopers. But Harris's fortunes turned around in 2004 when he played a hilariously fictionalized version of himself in Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle, a drug-taking, irrepressibly horny degenerate who couldn't be any further from the wholesome young doctor Harris played years prior. Harris's scene-stealing performance was widely praised, enough that when he went to audition for the character of Barney Stinson in sitcom How I Met Your Mother the next year, the casting agent informed him that the show's creators had seen Harold and Kumar. And so it's not a leap to suggest that without Harold and Kumar helping reinvent the public perception of Harris, he almost certainly wouldn't have landed his career-redefining role. Number 3, JeanClaude Van Damme, JCVD. It's impossible to overstate the popularity of JeanClaude Van Damme from the mid-1980s through to the mid-90s. For an entire decade, he was one of the quintessential action stars, alongside Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, and Steven Seagal. By the turn of the millennium, though, Van Damme's star power began to fade amid a slew of less than stellar action joints, much of which ultimately went direct to video. But in 2008, he came back with a vengeance by doing the one thing just about nobody ever expected him to do: give a genuine, dramatic performance. Van Damme starred in JCVD, a black comedy in which he plays a loosely fictionalized version of himself who gets caught up in the middle of a post office heist. It's the sort of vanity-free performance few ever expected to see from Van Damme, who earned rave reviews for his riffing so frankly on his own career, and for a climactic single-take monologue that's a genuinely brilliant feat of acting from the muscles from Brussels. Though JCVD didn't mark a turn towards dramatic fare for the actor, it did force everyone to consider him in a new light, and all the renewed talk about him led to prominent roles in The Expendables 2, the Kung Fu Panda series, and a few new Universal Soldier and Kickboxer movies apiece. Number 2, Demi Moore, The Substance. Though Demi Moore was a bona fide movie star throughout the 1980s and 90s, her profile has waned considerably over the last 20 years, with her filmography now largely cluttered up with critical duds and box office flops. It seemed like Moore was perfectly happy taking a back seat, accepting undemanding work and toasting her past successes. But that all changed earlier this year when she starred in the mesmerizing body horror film The Substance. In an undeniably self-reflexive performance, Moore portrays Elizabeth Sparkle, a middle-aged movie star struggling to accept that Hollywood has shunned her in favor of younger starlets. To call Moore's performance bold and daring doesn't really cut it. This is the sort of unrestrained, vanity-free firecracker work few thought Moore ever had in her, especially at a point in her career where she seemed content to coast on whatever vehicles. But The Substance, with its plentiful full frontal nudity and graphic violence, is anything but whatever. It's a supremely confident satire of Hollywood and society's general treatment of women as they enter middle age, as well as the destructive tendencies of the self-reflexive gaze, and one which required Moore to commit harder than she ever has before. It makes getting ripped and shaving her head for G.I. Jane seem like mere child's play by comparison. And if there's any justice in this world, Moore will land a Best Actress Oscar nomination for her efforts. Number 1, KIU Quan, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And finally, there are few comebacks more wholly unexpected or decisive than that of KIU Quan, best known for his child performances as Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Data in The Goonies. However, Quan's career failed to sustain throughout the 1990s, and after a decade of trying to crack Hollywood, he took a formal 19-year hiatus from acting between 2002 and 2021, working instead as a stunt choreographer and assistant director. But Quan made a wholly unexpected comeback in 2022's Everything Everywhere All at Once, a bolder-than-bold, absurdist multiverse film that not only won the Best Picture Oscar, but netted Quan himself the Best Supporting Actor award as well. Quan returned out of nowhere and received the most emphatic pat on the back from the industry possible. This led to him quickly securing a juicy role on the Marvel TV show Loki, and will likely ensure he remains an in-demand commodity for the remainder of his career.